You see all this? You see all this gray hair? You want to know where that came from? Well, half of it probably came from trying to raise 5 kids. But the other half came from the volatility of the workflow in my web agency for the first 10 years running the business. So I started my agency in 2002. And back then, I was just hunting for projects. Like I was like, how do I land a project? How do I find the next one? And how can I hold my breath long enough to sustain the gaps between the projects? And if there was any way to sell a website that I haven't tried, I would be really surprised to hear it. I've tried rank and rent. I've tried selling websites on subscription. I've tried white label servicing myself so that I was like taking the overflow work from ad agencies. I've just obviously tried just waiting on people to send me referrals. But the problem with all of it is it's so unpredictable. Like there's nothing about lead generation in any of those strategies. It's only once you have the client, what do you do after that? It's like writing proposals and landing the clients, but there's no lead generation component to it. And that's why it's so stressful. So we might make popcorn when we're having movie night with the kids. And we've got this popcorn pot. I don't know if have you ever seen one of these things? You like throw the kernels in. It's got this little handle on it that you crank. And it's like while you're holding it over the stove, you just kind of spin this little handle and it kind of stirs the kernels in the pot. And then, a minute or two into it, you hear pop. And you keep stirring, and then a little bit later, it's like pop, pop. And then a little bit later, it's like pop, 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 pop. And you had just like all of these pops are happening. But when I think about my business, I was like doing that with maybe like 1 or 2 kernels in the pot. And so I was just stressing out over when one of those kernels was going to pop. And what I realized was if I could just put more kernels in the pot, then you get to the point where it's pop, 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 and you don't really have to worry about the gaps between the projects because you just have constant leads popping into your life. And then, of course, once you get the leads, it a little bit depends on what kind of leads you're getting because I want to have long-term partnership clients on monthly plans because then you permanently solve the gaps between the projects problem. You just keep working with the clients you already have. You don't really even need to worry about getting new leads. You just keep working with the clients you already have, and then the problem goes away. But in order to get to that point, how do you get more leads coming in? And I think when I finally solved that problem, it totally de-stressed my life. Like, here's another thing. Do you remember that movie Dumb and Dumber? I don't know why this is coming to my mind right now. But in the movie, I forget the names of all the characters. But the dumb guy goes to meet this girl at the ski lodge and everything. And he wants to go out on a date with her. And he says, hey, do you think you're ever going to go out with me? And she's like, no, there's not a chance. And then eventually she gets around to saying there's like 1 in a million, 1 in a million chance. And he's like, so you're telling me there's a chance? I used to feel that way about clients. Like if somebody even hinted that they might be interested in working with me, then I would say, so you're telling me there's a chance? And I would try to say, well, what if we do this? And I would just like basically beg them to work with me. And the reason for that was there was like 1 of the 2, maybe 3 kernels in my little pot. And I was just kind of waiting around stressing out over when one of those little kernels would pop. And that's no good. That's just no good. So if you could just put a lot of kernels in the pot, then you don't have to have that stress and you get to the pop, 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 all that comes to life. But how do you do it? Like, how do you get leads coming in? Because all of those other ways that we've talked about selling websites, like the rank and rent, the subscription, the client overflow thing for white label services or whatever, or just waiting on referrals, none of that has anything to do with lead generation. And I used to even get mad. I think I mentioned this in a previous video at one point. I even would get mad at my own friends and the other people that I used to work with and stuff, like some of my past clients, because they would say, hey, Lee, I've got somebody I think I ought to introduce you to this guy. This guy's running a new business. I think you could really help. And then they wouldn't do it. And then I'd be like, come on. If you would just say, and like, I can remember one time I was sitting down at dinner, like growing some gray hairs. I was talking to Emily. Emily's my wife. And I was like, you know what? If just like half the people would just do half of the stuff that they said, we would have more leads than we would know about. And I would get so mad because people wouldn't give me the leads they were talking about, the referrals. And then it occurred to me, it's like, how could I possibly? It's like, it's so stupid. So I'm mad at my friends for not marketing my business for me for free. That's so dumb. Why would I do that? Well, the reason for that is because I didn't know what else to do. So I have finally solved this problem in a very fun way. And there's a lot of, I'm going to put a link in the description to the authority framework, which we were talking about, I don't know, last week maybe. But we go into like super deep detail on how to do all of this. But here's the main point. The idea was to come up with a small favor that I could offer clients for free. And then, in particular, if it was something that was helpful to them, that they might even share with some of their friends. So I came up with this Google review app. It's just a little mobile app that allows clients to invite their customers to write reviews for them on Google or Trustpilot or Zillow if they're real estate agents or whatever. But it's just a little tool, and it doesn't cost me anything meaningful anyway to deploy it to people. So I can just give it away for free, and I can build up a new instance in like 20 minutes. It doesn't really take a lot of time. And so I would just walk around and I said, hey, would it be better? Would you like to have some more reviews? Do you ever wish your clients would write more reviews for you? Wouldn't you like to get some more reviews? And people would say yes to that. And then I would say, well, why don't you hop on a call with me? I'll show you how to build the app or how to install the app on your phone. It's totally free. It's not going to be in the App Store. So I'll show you how to use it and all that stuff. But the thing that was so interesting about that was that not only would people use the app and I could get calls kind of in that one-on-one way, but other business owners would then talk to the people that I've given the app to. And they would say, where did you get that? Because, they would go out to lunch with each other or just wherever, business owners all seem to know each other. And one of them would say, hey, have you seen this? And they would show their app to their friend. And they'd be like, hey, where did you get that from? And then they say, oh, well, Lee made it for me. Who is Lee? And so I would start getting referrals simply from the viral spread of my small favor. And so I started doing other small favors. So I had the Google review app. Another thing that I would do is I would interview local business owners on a website, like on basically like a blog, and get people to know and like the business owners so that then they would then go to those business owners' stores and like buy stuff. So it was like I wasn't trying to create like a local business directory or something like that, because that's so overplayed. And furthermore, why would anybody bother doing that when you already have Yelp and Google Business and there's all kinds of business directories all over the place. So I'm not trying to duplicate a business directory. What I was trying to do was get people to like the business owners. Because they're your neighbors. There's people in your neighborhood that all run businesses and you might not even know it. And even if you did know it, you might not know much about the people themselves. So I got this thing. I bought this little box. It's got like a little lavalier mic on it. And it's actually got two of them, and it just snatches onto your iPhone. And I would go and interview people, like bring my phone, put a mic on me and mic on somebody else, and just talk for a couple of minutes. And it wasn't about the products or the services or the details of the client's business. Like if you want to know that stuff, go to their website. I'll build their website and you can learn about that stuff. I wanted to talk about the people, the relationships. Like, why did you start it? What are your clients like? What motivates you to do this stuff? And it was kind of an interesting type of conversation. And then on top of that, I would sometimes even gamify the experience a little bit. Like, do raffles and giveaways and different promotions to try to drive, traffic to this kind of best of website of the local businesses and stuff. And so I would just invite people to participate in that with me. So now I've got this like Google review app. I've got the best of website. And then sometimes I would go to like networking events and share about those two other things and say, hey, if anybody wants to be featured on this website or if anybody wants to use this app, like I would just invite people to participate in stuff with me. And that's throwing kernels in the pot, like that's people know about me in a favorable way where I'm not really asking anybody to buy anything yet, but if I can support you in some way, then let's talk about it. That's throwing kernels in the pot. And I would just go around and do that. And I don't know, at least once a week, I would try to go out into a group setting and share my small favors with people. And maybe once or twice a week, I try to do a one-on-one setting to share my small favors with people. And then every morning I would do online outreach because that doesn't take hardly any effort. The conversion rate's really low for online outreach compared to in-person outreach. But even with online outreach, because I'm not selling anything, I'm not saying, hey, do you want to buy a website? I'm instead saying, hey, I'd love to feature you on our best of website, or I'd love to help you get some more reviews for free. I've got this app you can use, all that stuff. Because I'm saying that stuff, the response rate is dramatically higher than, do you want to buy a website? Do you want a site audit or something like that? So that's putting kernels in the pot. And then what I've noticed was, if any one of those individual kernels isn't interested, I don't do the Dumb and Dumber thing where you're like, well, you're telling me there's a chance. I just say, well, okay, fine. Well, even if you don't want to do anything with me right now, at least, keep getting some reviews. I'll check in with you next month and we'll see how it's going. I literally did this exact thing. I don't know what is today. So I'm filming this on Tuesday. So I guess it was probably Saturday night. So last week I was just hanging out, just kind of browsing through Facebook, and I noticed somebody said, hey, does anyone know anybody locally who can build a website? I was in one of those like neighborhood Facebook groups and stuff. And so I just casually said, yeah, I can help. Let's schedule a call. We can talk about it. And so she emails me back through, so I'm Facebook messaging her. So that was, I don't know, middle of the week or whatever. So like Saturday night, I'm messaging this person and she's like, hey, can you send me a quote for like a 5-page website, web hosting, and a domain name? You know, she didn't need very much. You know, she was just getting started. And so, so I just messaged her back and said, I don't really do it quite like that. Like my intent, like the thing that's the most important to me is that you're getting results, even if you don't buy a website from me. And maybe you don't even need a website just yet. I mean, I could feature you on this website that I've got, and I sent her a link to that website. Or I could, I could give you this app, and so I sent her a screenshot of the thing that helps you get more reviews and stuff. And it's like you can just use some of that stuff, even if you don't want to work with me. What if you just started with that? And then the interesting thing was, because I was telling her that stuff, it seemed that it made her want to buy a website from me even more, right? And so now I'm just kind of putting all of this, but I'm just putting more kernels in the pot. So like, I don't know how that's going to work out because she hasn't gotten back into me. It was actually her husband's business that she was doing some outreach for to try to figure out who can build a website for him. So they're going to talk, today's Tuesday. I haven't heard from them. They'll probably message me later in the week, whatever. But the interesting thing was, that's another kernel in my pot. And I'm not going to like follow up and pester and beg them to work with me. I'm just going to keep doing exactly the same thing that I did for her, for everyone else. And there's a lot of kernels in the pot. I'm going to keep turning the handle and it's going to go pop, 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 pop. And there's going to be more leads than I know what to do with. In fact, I'm not even doing this for my business. My son is actually getting into this. So I got a son, he's just out of high school and he was trying to figure out should he do college or not college or whatever. And I said, well, why don't you do some web design stuff? I'll help you kind of get some leads coming through, and you can see what you think. And if you like that, you can just run with that. Or if you want to do it on the side while you go to school, whatever, it just gives you a lot of opportunities because now you're making a lot of money. Why don't we do that? So that's why I was doing the outreach. And he's already landed a client. Like he got a $10,000 client like the first week. So because of this exact thing, because being able to offer stuff that helps people, that builds relationships, and it's just de-stresses you, so you won't end up with all this gray hair. So that's the part about lead generation. This video is already getting really long, so why don't we save the part about recurring revenue for another video? So subscribe for that. But one last thing before we head out, actually two things. So once you get the clients, like once you're out there kind of handing out small favors and getting people's attention, what do you say to talk to them? Like, how do you start that conversation? Well, check out this video right here, and there's a whole walkthrough. I have this plan. It's called Push Probe Plan. Check it out. It's a great formula for just starting conversations with people that lead to clients coming on board with you without feeling salesy or pushy. Or if you haven't yet, you gotta check out the Authority Framework. It's a brand new workshop. It's right here. It's totally free. And it goes through all the details of the small favor marketing, how to get leads, our $12,000 web design projects, what we put into those things, what services are included, how we land the project, the whole thing. You gotta check that out if you haven't. But if you have, then at least check out this next video about Push Probe Plan. I'll see you there.